Thank you for this comment. The comment reads, what do you think about the Swedish model? This commenter is talking about the Swedish model, also known as the Nordic model, the end-demand model, partial criminalization, or partial decriminalization. You'll find a lot of non-sex worker feminists advocating for the Nordic model because they view it as only criminalizing the buyers, which is not true. That is misinformation and propaganda so that you support the Nordic model. It still criminalizes the most vulnerable, including street-based workers and migrant workers. Amnesty International did an amazing 101-page report on the Nordic model. It's called Norway, the Human Cost of Crushing the Market, Criminalization of Sex Work in Norway. I understand that a 101-page document is a lot for some to read if they don't have a lot of time, so I really recommend this. It's really quick. It's a 2-page document. It's called The Law and Sex Work: 4 Legal Approaches to the Sex Sector. It's by Yale Global Health Justice Partnership and SWAN, the Sex Workers and Allies Network, and it tells you about each criminalization model. Very easy to understand. So right here on the second page is the partial decriminalization, aka Nordic model, or end-demand model, or Swedish model. This model criminalizes the buying of sexual services, but not the selling of sexual services. In other words, clients and anyone who facilitates selling and buying sex are subjected to criminal penalties, while persons selling sex technically are not. Supporters of this model seek to eradicate sex work and claim, based on their assumption of the gender of sex work, that it would end men's demands for commercial sexual services from women. However, sex workers' rights advocates do not support this approach. Right here are the implications. I think the biggest one is under this model, evidence indicates that sex workers continue to be arrested, albeit under different charges, as the activities essential to their work remain criminalized. This model polices buyers and focuses police action on the areas where sex workers conduct business. In countries following this model, sex workers are exposed to many of the same risks of violence, exploitation, and arrest as the criminalization model. Increased policing, even if targeted at buyers, means sex workers work in more isolated conditions, increasing their vulnerability and disrupting safety strategies. Studies suggest that this model does not reduce violence against sex workers. In fact, it may even be worse than the criminalization model, leaving sex workers with less choice over who they can accept as clients and less negotiation power over condom use and location. Many sex workers, including myself, advocate for full decriminalization, which is the complete removal of criminal penalties related to the sex trade. Right here, it says trafficking, violence, and victimization, intimate partner violence, and commercial sex acts involving minors will remain illegal under this model. Without criminal penalties, sex workers are less subject to violence, whether from the state, law enforcement, or private sectors. Sex workers have better access to services and economic opportunities, more control over their work, and greater ability to pursue legal remedies in the face of violence or other harms. Decriminalization would help protect communities disproportionately impacted by criminalization, advancing LGBTQ+ rights, racial justice, gender equality, immigrant rights, public health, and labor rights. When the threat of arrest is lifted, both sex workers and buyers are more willing to report suspected trafficking to law enforcement. Recent evidence from New Zealand suggests that their decriminalization law improved health outcomes for sex workers and did not lead to an increase in sex trafficking or to an increase in the number of minors involved in the sex trade. I suggest the article It's Time to Decriminalize Sex Work by the ACLU. They break down criminalization, they break down what decrim means, decriminalize sex work, protect Black trans lives. I suggest this article, Why Freedom United Supports the Decriminalization of Sex Work. Another Amnesty International report, Experts Back Decriminalization as the Best Means to Enhance the Rights of Sex Workers. And lastly, another ACLU article, ACLU analysis finds decriminalizing sex work improves public health and public safety. Analysis of more than 80 studies on the impacts of decriminalization shows that any form of criminalization harms adult sex workers. I hope you learned something. I have a lot of resources for you to learn. If you want more, just let me know. If you want to learn about the other criminalization models or other laws affecting sex workers, just let me know, and I can try my best to break it down and give you other sources.